Mandatory minicamp is in the books for the New York Jets, but in the famous words of Austin Powers, what does it all mean, Basil? Well, we're about to friggin' find out. Let's roll.
Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rodgers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Hey, what's poppin', everybody? Paul Esdin Jr., a.k.a. Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Heavy.com. Welcome to Boy Green Daily, a daily New York Jets video program, also available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's quickly bring in our special guest here on a Friday. You should know him. He's been prancing around doing New York Jets action for some time, but it's his first time. Let's pop that cherry here on Boy Green Daily, and let's bring him in, Nick Faria of Athlon Sports and the Pro Football Network. What's up, Nick? Good morning.
How's everything going, Paul? Great to be on for the first time here and meet your acquaintance as well.
Yeah, so let's get into it. And you have a column that is actually linked directly in the YouTube description, so viewers, feel free to jump on that, or listeners, wherever you happen to be listening, you can grab some of Nick's takeaways from minicamp. But this player wasn't featured in the takeaways, but I'm very curious about him. Carter Warren, because Robert Saleh yesterday at his presser said that Olu Fashanu will stay at left tackle, which means the Jets won't have a traditional swing tackle. There'll be a top-end backup for the left side and a top-end backup for the right side, and a guy that will be competing on that top-end right side is Carter Warren, who a lot of people are curious about, and I saw you tweeted about him yesterday. What have you seen from Carter Warren in minicamp, OTAs, and the whole like?
Yeah, I know a lot of people weren't really high on him last year. He wasn't dominant in games, but I thought that he showed bright spots. I mean, he wasn't terrible. He wasn't great. It was sort of just below average. And you have to expect that for a rookie left tackle coming into the league, where his senior year, his last year at Pittsburgh, he was dealing with a lot of injuries. So Carter didn't really have the greatest rookie season for an offensive lineman, but you're seeing the improvements. The first thing that I saw in offensive line drills is that his footwork is a lot quieter. It's a lot more simplistic. It's more efficient. And that's what you kind of want out of offensive linemen. I had a side-by-side video of Fashanu and Tyron Smith just a couple of days ago, and you saw the difference between Tyron's footwork and Fashanu's footwork. And that's not a bad thing. Fashanu's in his first mini camp, so he's still learning the ropes right away. But with Warren, you're seeing the difference. He's more balanced. He's got a more deliberate approach in his kickback steps. So to me, he is the perfect quintessential right tackle for this team right now. Morgan Moses, yes, he's dealing with an injury. He's had some recent history of injury concerns, but for the most part, he's been relatively healthy throughout his entire career. So it's not really that you have to worry about that position as a backup, but to have a player like Warren who continues to develop, certainly something that Jet fans should be high on, at least to this point right now, because I know they love what they've seen out of Olu Fashanu, and they've been impressed with what they've seen from Carter Warren too.
What do you make of that decision? Because, again, teams normally operate with a swing tackle, and for those less inclined, that means one guy is covering both left and right. So if anyone goes out, that person is the sixth man off the bench to immediately jump in. And it seems like, again, according to Saleh's comments yesterday, the Jets will not be doing that. It's to keep one exclusively at one position and one sort of exclusively at the other. Is that the right call for the Jets?
Yeah, listen, it's kind of like the Madden approach. You always want to be able to have, one particular backup for each particular position. And that's not how all teams do it. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they have a swing tackle, they have a swing guard, they have their own backup center. But they're not always the team to follow in terms of that regard. I actually think it's a great idea because when you have a rookie tackle, particularly someone like Olu Fashanu, who has only played left tackle, you don't want to throw him into positions he's not comfortable with. You want to make sure that his development goes as smoothly as possible. And that means sitting him down, playing one position, learning one position so he's a master at it, because the time Tyron Smith leaves this team at the end of the 2024 season, he's probably going to have some games under his belt, and you're going to have to rely on him going into his sophomore season to be the tackle of the future and the tackle of the present. So I have no problem with it. I actually like it because it allows this organization to develop players the right way. We know that they develop defensive players at an excellent rate. We've seen that over the last 4 years. But the one thing they haven't been able to do is develop offensive talent, both offensive line and at the skill position group. This is kind of them understanding that and doing everything in their power to be able to say, we are going to finally get this right by being patient with our best young players.
Yeah, and let's go to Fashanu, someone Robert Saleh highlighted and apparently also highlighted in the team meeting earlier in the day yesterday prior to the press conference for how he stood out. Now, it's kind of hard for offensive linemen to stand out because there's not that trench warfare contact there might have used to been at some of these voluntary OTAs. What have you seen from him? Because initially there was some fans going, geez, another player that doesn't have a direct path to PT. This team's quote-unquote all in. I don't see it. So there was some heat early on, but it seems like some heads are being turned there at one Jets drive.
The thing that I will say about Fashanu is he's not supposed to play. And if Jets fans have it their way, he's not going to play this year because that means Tyron Smith plays a full 17-game season. But ultimately, you kind of look at the Green Bay Packers model for quarterbacks. They draft a quarterback first round, second round, whatever, and they have him sit behind a great starting quarterback. They drafted Jordan Love. He didn't play for his first 3 seasons. His 4th year coming into the league, he leads the Packers to a playoff victory over the Dallas Cowboys. So, yes, people want immediate results from their rookie class, and this is the way the NFL is right now. But I look at past history, and I consider myself an NFL historian in a lot of different cases. You look at some of the best situations that some players are in. And it's usually because the team allows them to sit behind a very good player to start their career, and they learn how to play the position the right way. You look at Dermontti Dawson of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was a center back in the 80s, but he replaced Mike Webster, who was a Hall of Fame center for the Steelers during their dynasty run of the 70s. And they didn't play Dawson that first year. The second year he comes in, they let Webster go. And then Dawson goes in, has a Hall of Fame career, and the Steelers go from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer. So I'm not saying that Fashanu is going to be a Hall of Famer, but what I am saying is the results show that when you give players the opportunity to sit behind some great talent, the end result is usually even better.
Okay, so Nick's saying that Olu Fashanu is not a guaranteed Hall of Famer, but he's not saying he's not going to be a future Hall of Famer. Okay, sign me the hell up, baby, on Olu Fashanu. Now, a player that has been getting a lot of hubbub, but I haven't seen eye roll isn't the proper term from people, but it's like, okay, that's what should be happening, is Garrett Wilson. But I think it's almost disrespectful to have that reaction to it because he's just playing with absolute with all due respect, Garbaggio at the quarterback position. So now everyone says, okay, we've seen, franchise record breaking. We haven't seen a Jets receiver have 1,000 yards in his first 2 seasons ever. But I think what we want to see in the leap is less so team franchise record breaking and like NFL record breaking. Is he has not been, he being Garrett Wilson, has been like in the top 5 of the major statistical category: catches, yards, touchdowns. Is that the kind of season we're in store for with Garrett Wilson and Aaron gosh darn Rodgers?
I think I've said this on almost every show that I've been on, but last year I had the hot take that Wilson was going to shatter the target record set by Michael Thomas. Obviously, that didn't happen because things that happened were outside of his control. But now with Rodgers and even Tyrod Taylor, I'm throwing it back out there. He is going to shatter Michael Thomas's targets record simply because he is the Jets' top receiving target. He is the one player that the Jets need to get the ball consistently at least 10 to 15 times a game, whether it's by screens, whether it's by quick slants, it does not matter. He is one of their best players overall on this roster. I look at his catch radius. I look at his yards after catch. All these metrics show that he is an elite receiver. The only thing that is separating him right now is the fact that unlike some of these top receivers, he has had to play with 4 quarterbacks each year he's been in the league. That is just ridiculous for a young receiver. And the fact that he's still able to put up these numbers is highly impressive. We're going to be talking about Garrett Wilson as a top 5 receiver next year. And I certainly think he's going to set quite a few records in the target discrepancy next season.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to try to compare and contrast here between Michael Thomas. That number, by the way, for Michael Thomas is 185 targets. Good Lord, have mercy.
He'll get over 200. I'm very, very confident with the way he looks in this offense now, with the way that Aaron Rodgers has played with him. I think he's going to get well over 200.
Which would be spectacular. And so far, for people to get kind of a sense here of what it's been, for the first 2 years, it's been 147 and 168 for Garrett Wilson. So a sizable jump would be spectacular. Also, I'm pretty sure I saw this stat around on the internet that Garrett Wilson was tied for the league lead in, the missed target rate. Like, it was uncatchable. Like, he had no opportunity. Like, some poor guy at MetLife Stadium who was saying, hot dogs, get your hot dog. He was getting drilled more than Garrett Wilson was getting those opportunities. So that would be spectacular to see Garrett Wilson certainly in that light. What about the Robin to his Batman? You mentioned that he's going to get a lot of targets, and you could see it because when you look at the rest of the offense, there's a lot of interesting, talented pieces, but it seems like Garrett Wilson's a top dog, and then there's a bunch of other guys. Who can step up to be the Robin to his Batman, and what potential impact could that have in terms of a ripple effect on the rest of the offense?
Well, I know the Jets want to have Mike Williams be that guy. Big body receiver, have the Mike Williams to the Keenan Allen sort of when you have with the LA Chargers back in the day. But ultimately, I think it's very difficult to project right now because Williams is still coming off his ACL injury. And I have heard from a lot of different doctors throughout ACL surgeries, and they do a lot of different ones. My brother suffered a torn ACL when he was a high school linebacker. The result that I have heard consistently is that it takes 2 full years for a player to be 100% back to their old self after that said injury, after that surgery. So in fairness, I cannot judge Mike Williams as the expectation that he's going to be a number 2 receiver, put up 1,000 yards, next to 80 to 90 catches and 10 touchdowns. I think that's a little too high for him. It's just not fair to put that on him. I do think that he's going to have a major, major effect on this offense simply because of his body and his ability to get downfield in a hurry. But I look at what the Jets offense is going to do, and I really think that they are simply going to be we're going to target Breece Hall, we're going to target Garrett Wilson, and everyone else is going to get their share of targets when they are open and available. You look at guys like Malachi Corley. Corley's been silent so far in mandatory minicamp and OTAs, but I think that's mostly to do with the fact that the Jets don't want to put him out in the field in situations when he has not signed his rookie contract. So again, semantics right now. We're talking June 13th, trying to figure out which players are going to be besides Garrett Wilson. But outside of Breece Hall, there's going to be a giant question mark whether they come on and develop or not, because the Jets offense is already has plenty of top talent. It's just a matter of finding those secondary and third guys that are able to help them out for 5, 6, 7 touches a game for Rodgers and for this offense in general.
Again, we're speaking with Nick friggin' Faria here, baby, on the program from Athlon Sports and the Pro Football Gosh-darn Network. And I appreciate that little medical nugget in there, the 2 years removed. That's a very interesting number, Dr. Faria. So I want to translate that to Breece Hall, who, interestingly enough, blew out his ACL, in October of a year and a half / 2 years ago is when it's happening. So we'll be coming up on that 2-year anniversary, obviously, coming up this season. He appeared in all 17 games last year, and then you saw the rampage up as we get to the latter parts of the season. I mean, Breece Hall looked pretty gosh darn good last year. The more he gets removed from the injury, Doctor, it sounds like the higher we could see here. What is the ceiling for Breece Hall? I heard Chris Brockman. I'm a big Rich Eisen show fan on there. He's like, boy, he could lead the league in rushing. I was like, And then we just saw last year the second most prolific receiving season in Jets franchise history from a reception perspective. So you pair that and that, you're like, oh, baby, we could have something pretty spicy here.
Yeah, and with Hall, when I speak to a lot of doctors, they say there's obviously outliers to this. Adrian Peterson and, of course, Breece Hall last season. But you also saw last year where, yes, he finished 4th in the NFL in yards from scrimmage, but he wasn't dominant for different points throughout the season. I think that's going to change drastically this year. The Jets are not going to overwhelm him with targets like other running backs, Todd Gurley, Le'Veon Bell, Ezekiel Elliott. They all were essentially done with their careers by the age of 26. And that's because they were ran into the ground as early as possible by their teams. The Jets want to be deliberate with their approach of how they handle Hall, and it's the right move to make. He's a great player. He's going to be looking for a new contract after this season, so you want to make sure that he gets plenty of touches, but you also want to make sure that he's going to be healthy enough where he can still play at a high level at 27, 28 years old. He's a guy that I look at, his ceiling is probably 2,000 yards of total offense because he can certainly rush for 1,000 yards. He was close to getting 1,000 yards receiving. So I certainly think that's up there. Again, I always try to make comparisons with the Eagles, but I think he's a bigger Brian Westbrook in a way.
Ooh.
Where he is just so shifty, such a complete running back where he can run in between the tackles, get outside, and has the speed to break off long runs. I look at Hall as sort of the final piece of what makes this Jets offense go from great to elite. Because when he is on, when he has a great offensive line in front of him, I think you're looking at a first-team All-Pro, and I really don't think it's close. The one thing I'll say about practice yesterday, and again, it wasn't that we always have to take it into account that it was mandatory minicamp. The pads were not on. We still have a long way to go to see how good this offensive line is going to be because not all of them played yesterday. But there were some road graders out there. John Simpson made a couple of great blocks that sprung some big-time runs from Tariq Cohen. I do like what I saw from Fashanu. Carter Warren, like I said, looked pretty good. And Joe Tippmann has been phenomenal through this first month of organized workouts. So this offensive line is going to look drastically different this season. And I think in a big way, if they play at a high level in the running game, Hall's going to at least go for well over 1,000 yards, close to probably the 1,300 to 1,500 range total.
Which would be spectacular. All right, let's go to the YouTube Super Chats, which, of course, are always open if you guys would like to get involved on the program. Let's go to our boy Dom C. of Project Prospect here on the program with a juicy $9.99. That's a good deal, and let's get to it. Nice to see you both together. This should be a weekly spot. I like the cut of your jib, Dom C. That's a great idea. The first time to every time. Let's my people, Nick's people, will discuss after the program. But the question for you, Nick, is dive into the tight end room. What have you seen at camp? A lot of Kenny Yeboah love. I've seen that on social media as well. But has there been a Zach Kuntz sighting, like Sasquatch? Was there a rare flag? Whoa, was that him? I'm not sure. And what about the tight end room here, Nick?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. First off, Tyler Conklin is clearly the number one tight end. He has been the best tight end on the field. Made a couple of great catches yesterday in team. One of them, he was over the middle of the field. He would have gotten killed if the pads were on, but he held on to make the catch. He's been very, very impressive. I think he's coming in for a big season this year with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Outside of him, there's a big question mark. Jeremy Ruckert, I think the Jets are waiting to see him break out as a former third-round pick. He hasn't really done so in workouts yet. That doesn't mean he's not going to, but they definitely want to see more out of him. Kenny Yeboah has been probably the biggest riser because he has been excellent in catching the football, getting downfield, but also in the run blocking scheme. We don't really see him as a blocker. He's got that sort of tweener build between a receiver and a tight end, but he's certainly improved with that. A couple big runs yesterday that the Jets recorded against their number one defense came because Yeboah was able to set the edge at a very high level. So if he continues to develop along that trajectory of blocking at a high level and still having the ability to get downfield as a tight end, I certainly think that there's a roster spot for him. And that brings me to the 7th round pick last year, Zach Kuntz. Listen, they love his sort of skill set. They love his intangibles because he's this big, tall tight end. I just haven't seen enough out of him through these first two practices. I wasn't at voluntary workouts, but I did hear a lot where sometimes he stood out, other times he didn't. Just a very inconsistent back and forth. There's certainly a chance that he makes the roster, if Rodgers is in camp, because he's going to be. And if he's there and he targets Kuntz a lot, certainly that roster spot's going to be available for him. But I look at what he's been able to do. He's had a couple drops yesterday. He's certainly a guy that the intangibles look great, but the play has to go with. And this is sort of the track that I heard coming out of Penn State and Old Dominion, where when he was at Penn State, everyone loved the kind of player he looked like he was going to be. but it never really came together for him. So he transferred to Old Dominion, had a great season, and then was drafted by the Jets in the 7th round. Tangibles are great. Need to see more.
Hey, by the way, you said you weren't at voluntary workouts, right?
Yes,
But you were at mandatory minicamp.
correct.
So you pulled the opposite of Rodgers. Hey, I didn't see any of the negative headlines on you, Nick, on social media. Great play. You and your agent made the right decision. I just wanted to let you know that, pal.
That's it. This is all. I'm on the hunt for a full-time role, so it's more just picking my spots at the best time.
Yeah, I got you. Wink. Hey, by the way, speaking of the tight end position, I'm kind of curious on this because reportedly the Jets were hot and heavy for Brock Bowers, and that would have meant that some of these guys we're talking about, Kenny Yeboah having these nice pops, Tyler Conklin looking very well. Obviously, there's a large contingent in the Jets fan base that is rooting for Jeremy Ruckert, and then obviously there's even some Zach Kuhn Sasquatch fans out there as well that are rooting for him. Like, how has the very public Brock Bowers' pursuit kind of affected any of these guys? Because I heard Conklin kind of talk about it before, like almost like a chip on the shoulder sort of thing. Is that kind of the overall embrace of the room almost with this Brock Bowers stuff?
Yeah, from what I've heard, it's really been sort of the, hey, you want to replace us? Okay, we're going to show you exactly how good we can be as a position group. And I know, and again, just because he hasn't stood out yet does not mean that he's going to have a bad season. Jeremy Ruckert, very similar to Kuntz, has a lot of great intangibles. He can get open, had very good film on at Ohio State, and even played well last season. So I'm not going to sit here and throw the towel on him. I still think he's going to be the number 2 tight end behind Conklin. And when they use 2 tight end sets, he's going to be on the field because he's a guy that can get open. And the Jets need those kind of players because you don't know what you're going to get from Mike Williams right away. But I know that the tight end room is hungry, as is pretty much every position on the Jets right now. They are as focused as I've ever seen them. I had this conversation with DJ Reed yesterday where I kind of put him on the spot. Last year, he tried to compare the defense to the 85 Bears and the 2000 Ravens. I asked him, are you making that comparison again? He goes, chill, brother. Absolutely not. So they're all focused. They're focused on the now. They're focused on the immediate. And you kind of see that with every position room.
Yeah, which is funny. I'm glad that you gave him the up. Hey, you can double down.
Always something to write about if you give me that.
Yeah, that's true. All right, guys, if you have any YouTube super chat questions or anything of note, feel free to send them in. We have Nick here for a few more minutes, and we'll get to some of those. You mentioned Joe Tippmann. He's also someone that was highlighted by Aaron Rodgers during his conversation with Adam Shine, and it wasn't like, no disrespect to Adam Shine. It's not like, hey, what do you think of Joe Tippmann? Like, that wasn't a question on Adam Shine's agenda. Yet Aaron Rodgers went out of his way to highlight this young man. And we also found out he's staying at center because, there's kind of some questions with some of these guys. Tippmann got a little work at guard and center last year. ABT obviously has been all over the place. It seems like the Jets are kind of committing to some positions here, putting a ring on it, if you will, for some of this. What about Tippmann has stood out to you? And that's great news because, for 18 years, the Jets had the greatest center play in the NFL from, Kevin Mawai, Hall of Famer, to Nick Mangold, Ring of Honor member, and maybe future Hall of Famer for that long. And all us Jet fans went, oh, so center position's just always figured out. And then there was a harsh reality check after that point, and now Jet fans are back on the wagon going, oh, is this it? Could Tippmann bring us back to the past glory?
It's interesting because you talk about center play, and I'm currently going through it right now post the Jason Kelce era, and right. I'm wondering, are we okay with Cam Jurgens? Are we going to be okay? Is everything fine? But on Joe Tippmann's side, the one thing I will say, and I think in large part a lot of teams understand this, and I think the Jets have sort of missed this in recent years. Just because a player can move around does not mean he should. Elijah Vera Tucker can be a Pro Bowl caliber right tackle or left tackle, but he can be an all-pro Hall of Fame guard. Same thing with Joe Tippmann. He looked good at guard, but his natural position is center. The position that he is going to develop into a Pro Bowl caliber player is center. And I don't want to throw the comparisons with Nick Mangold just yet because I feel it's still early in his career. But for the most part, I've seen he's looked great in run blocking. He's been very communicative. He has been the sort of Jason Kelce along the line of making sure everyone is where they need to be, calling out checks, calling out blitzes, being that sort of point guard along the offensive line that teams look for centers to be now. When I look at Tippmann, I look at a kind of guy that is developing exactly the way he needs to. The Jets are still very high on him. I think yesterday's practice was probably his worst because some of the snaps were not exactly consistent. But that's the snaps. Everything else about his game was perfectly fine. And he did get a shout out from Keith Carter on Tuesday where he was talking about a particular drill, and almost everyone else had criticism to correct, something to correct. Tippmann was the one where Carter was like, great job, Tip. Excellent. That's how we do it. So again, take it for what it's worth. In minicamp, take it for what it's worth without the pads. But when you look at what Joe Tippmann has been able to do, it's important that he has already shown that he can be the leader along the offensive line on a group full of veterans.
And another pick six jumping to the other side of the ball from Quantez Stiggers. This is a guy who obviously had a great story. You know, if they were making a Hollywood script, oh, wow, this is phenomenal. But I think a lot of Jet fans, you know, with all due respect, they care about that, but they care about the football. What's the actual football action? And boy, we've seen some stuff. The Jets room is loaded at corner, but has Quantez Stiggers lived up to the billing so far in your mind?
I would even say he's been the best rookie that has showed out in camp and through voluntary workouts. And that's saying a lot because Braylon Allen, Isaiah Davis look great. Fashanu's been very solid. I'll even, you throw in Malachi Corley for the minimal work that he's done. But Quantez Stiggers has been even better than all of them because he's looked like a lockdown corner whenever he's on the field. And it's going to be really interesting because we've already seen him pick off quite a few passes in camp, whether it's Rodgers, whether it's Taylor, whatever. It doesn't matter at this point. You have a young corner like this who's a late round pick, and you have all three of your starters hitting free agency next season. DJ Reed kind of mentioned this already where he said when we asked about his contract, my 3 years are up and then I'm hitting free agency. And he didn't sound bitter about it. He didn't sound upset about it. Didn't sound like he was going to hold out. It was just a very simple, I'm prepared to hit free agency and I'm perfectly okay with doing so. I'm not going to hold out. The Jets have been great to me. I'm very appreciative of them, but I'm perfectly fine hitting free agency. And it certainly sounds like he is understanding of where the clock is going on his career right now, because if you ask anyone, Carter and Gardner are going to get the contract extensions over him. But the fact that the Jets have a player like Quantez Stiggers already playing well, already playing at a high level in practice against some really good receivers tells you that we may be seeing a replacement should DJ Reed struggle. And when I mean struggle, I mean if he's looking like the worst cornerback in football and the Jets need to make a move because he's losing them games, not saying it's going to happen because no one would really hope that would happen. But if that were to happen, they could absolutely go to Stiggers and say, here you go, Rook. You're getting on the field. And he has looked the part so far. Fashanu, the running backs, all of them have looked good. Stiggers has looked even better.
And are you surprised? So you mentioned DJ Reed. He was talking about his contract situation yesterday. It sounds like he and the Jets and his agent have had no conversations this offseason, which is interesting because of his large cap hit this year. A lot of people thought maybe that would be a way to create cap space, is give him that extension early and make things happen. They don't seem like they have had those conversations. Does that surprise you?
No, and I'll sit here and say this because it kind of ties into the Hassan Reddick holdout.
Okay.
Everyone's talking about Reddick not being here and wanting a new deal, and the Jets should never have made this trade without coming to terms on an agreement. I want to pump the brakes on that for everyone because I have followed Hassan Reddick's career now for 3 years.
Yeah,
when
right.
When he signed his 3-year, $45 million deal with Philadelphia, he was underpaid. After his first season there, it was a bargain, an absolute bargain. 16 sacks, 5 fumbles forced. You helped the defense get to the Super Bowl, and you're only making $14-15 million. That's absurd. So he's been underpaid, and he has sat out of voluntary workouts and mandatory minicamp before. He did it last year. He still showed up to training camp. He was still an exemplary player, an exemplary leader. This is not like something where he's going to come in and make a mess of the situation. He knows his role. He's willing to play for his role because he knows at 29 years old, he's got one more payday left before the twilight of his career, and this is the time to get it. So when you look at the Jets, they have $6 million in cap space. They don't have the cap right now to give him that long-term extension, but they can restructure Quinn Williams' deal. They can restructure Quincy Williams' deal, and they can also, as you mentioned, restructure a guy like DJ Reed. And I'm not saying that it's not going to happen, but the conversations have not been had by the Jets at all for anyone. They have not restructured anyone's contract. So that's the first thing that happens. The minute you hear the Jets have moved money around from Quinn Williams' contract or Quincy Williams' contract or anyone on the roster, the Hassan Reddick signing is imminent. Just put it that way, because they need to create some cap space. It's going to eventually happen. The question is not if it'll happen, it's just when it will happen. They've got 40 days to do this before training camp. It's going to happen. They're going to create cap space, and they're going to be in a position to succeed next year with Hassan Reddick on their team.
We're out of time, Nick, but just this comment real quick. If there's no deal, is Reddick holding out of training camp?
I think he will at the start, but he will certainly come back. Because, again, he's an edge rusher.
Yeah.
At what point do we need edge rushers to come in? Like, I can tell you right now in practices, edge rushers are doing nothing. As great as the offensive line has worked, they're not really being tested right now. You look on the metric of understanding that we're not seeing a lot from the defensive line or even linebackers, to say the least. You want your edge rushers, and like you want your running backs, healthy and 100% for the start of the season, particularly someone like Reddick, who seemed to fall off at the end of last season simply because he was on a defense that was one of the worst in football. So, yes, I get that understanding of panic will set in if he misses training camp. I don't think he will personally, because I think this contract dispute will be solved beforehand. But still, we're in June. We got a long ways to go, and this is a contract situation that the Jets have to create $10 million more in salary cap space. They can easily do so just by restructuring Quinnen Williams' contract. So I would expect a bridge deal to happen with Hassan Reddick, and I certainly think it's going to happen before training camp. If it doesn't, it's not even the end of the world, because he plays at a position where he needs to be healthy more than anything else.
Again, follow him on Twitter, Nick_Faria, baby, 720 on Twitter. Nick, thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you again on soon.
Definitely. Thanks so much, Paul.
All right, there he is. Nick joining us here on the program. We'll keep the train rolling. I'll open up the phone lines. We've got 400-plus people here in the room, so we'll get to some of you. Nick only had 30 minutes, which we really appreciate, so phenomenal. But I will stay on here for slightly longer here as we get you here on the show. So let me open up those phone lines, and I can answer some of your questions or comments. Mandatory minicamp is in the books. And, Nick was someone available who he could have on the show. And I was like, oh, phenomenal. I'd love to get someone who was there to get their live perspective of it. All right, here is the video call-in link to join the show. Make sure you guys also like the video and hit subscribe on the channel. That's how this channel grows. Again, we are live every single day at 7:30 in the morning. All right, that is now in the comment section, is now the pinned comment. So if you'd like to call into the show, hop on over to YouTube. We're streaming live on Heavy on Jets. Shout out to Heavy, as always, for supporting the show. We're on Twitter at BoyGreen25. And again, YouTube.com/BoyGreen25, which is the main hub, the main headquarters of this program, which is where you can watch the visual product. Again, YouTube.com/BoyGreen25. And again, also the Boy Green merch shop link is in the YouTube description down below. Grab your coffee mug, people. Let's jump over to the phone lines. We got EZ joining us right off the top rope. What's up, Edward?
Good morning, Paul. How are the kids doing, and your wife and girlfriend?
Excellent. Yes, Monday is the big appointment. I won't be on the radio show on Monday. Of course, I'll be doing Boy Green Daily, but I do Boy Green Daily, and then we head to the hospital for one of those big ultrasound things for the baby. It's like a multi-hour thing or something. Whatever that is on Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, those things creep me out, man.
All right, I appreciate that.
I had 3 kids. Anyway, I love Kenny Yeboah. I think he could be this year's Quincy Enunwa.
I like that,
because that's the kind of wide receiver Quincy was. He was a hybrid too, wasn't he? If I recollect,
he was. Yeah, he did some H-back stuff, running back. Yeah, they used him in a lot of different roles. Mm-hmm.
I've never really seen Kenny Yeboah, excuse my French, fuck up in a critical play. I've never seen him screw up.
Yeah.
Never. I mean, he's just reliable.
Solid.
I mean, maybe he's not number 1 wide receiver tight end caliber, but damn, I love him in there. And like the other guy was saying, how he set up one of the best running plays of yesterday against the defense. You got to have him on the team.
So I hope he makes the 53. He's a fun cat that's been around for a lot of years for the Jets. It'd be cool to see him make the 53-man roster. So he'll be certainly in that conversation based on all the buzz, I think.
I absolutely think he's going to make the 53, and plus the fact that he's a special teams guy. So yeah.
Correct.
Who's the special teams coach?
Brant Boyer.
He's not going to let them cut him. He's going to be like,
especially after the Hardy thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of consolidation this offseason.
Your bow is on there. And the other thing, Quan Stiggers.
Yeah.
Oh my God, he's a ball hawk.
Yeah, it's fun to see.
People forget he didn't just come out of college and get drafted. He was playing pro football up in Canada. Now, maybe that's not NFL caliber players, but it's a lot better than just college caliber players.
I agree, because there are people in college that after their college careers, they're going to a grocery store for their career. You know, no offense. I was at a grocery store for 4 years. But, I mean, you go to the CFL, those are grown men playing up there, and he won the Rookie of the Year, among all the grown men action. To me, a lot of that is very important to note that some people seemingly don't care about. And all these pick sixes and big plays he's making, I don't know, man. I was excited about it before the draft as a potential, and to see what he's been doing early on, man, that's incredibly enticing.
I'm going to make a little prediction.
Oh, please do.
I'm going to predict that within 2 years, he's going to be the number one cornerback in the NFL.
Wow. Okay. All right. That is
because he's going to be everything that Sauce is, only with the ball hawking abilities. Sauce is more of a cover guy because he's long and lanky and he can smack the ball around and get it out of the way and cover the guys good. I don't know if about his ball skills, though. He's never been a ball hawk. But with this cat, now you have the option of either getting the ball smacked away by Sauce or getting it picked off by Stiggers. It's going to be real tough for quarterbacks to make that decision.
Yeah, they're going to have limited options. Sauce, boy. All right, Stiggers, we're going to try the young guy, which is what happened to Sauce. In his first year, he got tried a lot, and then people were like, oh, boy, that was a mistake, and then he didn't get that action before. So, wow, sign me up, baby. Number one.
They did the same thing. They did the same thing to Stiggers last year in the CFL. They tried him, and they tried him again, and they tried him again, and then he won Rookie of the Year. So, I mean, how bad could it be?
Yeah, that's a good point. I love it.
Even if he's like the number 5 guy in the NFL.
Sure.
You got number 1 and number 5, and then you got, Carter the second at slot, and then we have the other guys who used to start for us got replaced by these better guys. We do have a solid backfield in the defense.
That's for sure. I love it, Easy. And wow. Okay, you've set the tone here for the callers. There's no question about it. I love it.
All right, man. Next up.
You heard it there from EZ, man. Number 1 corner in football in the next 2 years. Okay, if he's number 1 and Sauce is already number 1, I like that math. I don't know how that math worked out, but I like it. Okay, all right. Jeez, Olu, I think sometimes I give a bold prediction. I step out of my comfort zone. EZ says, hold my beer, pal. All right, let's go back to the phone lines here. We got Johnny Boy here on the program. What's up, Johnny?
Yo, what up, Boy Green?
It was great. I know you probably didn't want to be upstage, but Ride Dog yesterday, whoa, 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 jumping on the program. Very nice.
No, man, she's dope, man. She's a good kid.
Yeah. You've done good work, pal. Yeah, she seems like a real charm.
Dude, Boy Green and Nick Faria, man. Dude, the coffee crew, as my uncle deemed us, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need.
I've never had him on the show. I've heard him in other places, and finally yesterday I reached out, and at first I reached out because I had already a topic and stuff I was going to talk about solo today. So I was just kind of asking for, hey, sometime in the future, something. He's like, I'm available tomorrow. I'm like, all right, I guess you're coming on. And then we set it up really quick. So yeah, I hope he's back on here in the future. That'd be great.
Bro, he's so knowledgeable, dude, and the way he breaks it down,
and he's there. He's covering the team. So, like, what better? Because, like, what I tried to do for this show is I want to put stuff out here that I'd enjoy. And I'm a crazy Jets fan. I'd be doing this for free. Don't tell my bosses. I'd be doing this for free because I'm a crazy Jets fan. So I'd be doing all this stuff anyway. I just try to say what would be interesting to me. Someone who's there covering the team at all these mandatory minicamps. Something I won't speak for everyone. Some fans were at these mandatory minicamps, but for me, I'm not there. I'm in New York. I don't get to see any of this action, unfortunately. So I want to see it from someone who did, and their takeaways mean a lot more to me. So yeah, he was awesome.
And his takes come as a person that is not a Jets fan.
Correct. He's got Eagles
just
roots,
reporting it and seeing it for what it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Edward Ziff, our guy. All right, look.
Yeah.
Yo, bro. I like you, dog. But Kenny Yeboah, man, the fucking camp champion, every single camp OTA, that dude looks amazing, and then he fizzles out. Like, look, I believe in Conklin and I believe in Ruckert and what we have, and let them cats rock. You know what I mean? Yo, Kuntz is a beast. He's a monster. That dude's like 7'20". He runs like a 40 in under 1 second. That dude's a unicorn. And I think they're doing it the right way. Again, like, the issue with me that I've always had is I've always hated just throwing rookies right from the very beginning into the damn light. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Because
Jets have done that far too often in their history. Yeah.
And it's always tanked on us.
Yeah.
First off, you're playing in a damn media within the bright lights of New York. And you can't. You know what I mean? Not everybody's made to play in New York, unfortunately.
Of course.
And seeing what they're doing, like with Stiggers, let Stiggers sit behind DJ Reed and let him continue to keep learning and all that. DJ Reed's presser yesterday was amazing to me. It was awesome. Like, it was a dude that you know that he's pretty much like, shit, like, these cats are gonna get rid of me. Like, I know it's gonna happen, but I'm not gonna shit on the organization and sound like a punk. He's like, I signed a 3-year contract, right? I'm here. I gave you guys my word. I'm gonna rock. You know, we're gonna go that. There was a question that was asked to him about him being available on a constant, and does he believe because he's always there and not hurt, right? What does he think of that? You know, well, he prides himself on praying first, dude. There needs to be more people out there that say stuff like that and not scared to talk. And look, as much as it hurts me to say this, dude, I hope that they keep him because of what he brings. It's just that culture, dude, is different, bro. Like, we're going from when you got, what's his name, Huff, going ahead and saying, you know, fuck the Jets and I don't give a shit. I'm making my money, suckers. No, I'm kidding. That's what I heard. But
no, I got you.
I just, it's awesome. And in Nick's insight, man, on all the stuff on what's going on, and I kind of heard some of the other stuff with the Lazard thing and everything as well. Like, I still think Lazard is going to get cut, but that's my take, you know. So
we'll see. Awesome. Rich Cimini keeps saying that that's possible. So, like, he said, it's not that it's likely, like, oh boy, book it, but he said, like, hey, keep an eye on it. And the fact that he keeps saying keep an eye on it, despite the fact that he's guaranteed $10 million and all this other stuff, just piques my interest. Like, okay, let's see what happens, because, like, it seemed like a foregone conclusion because of money. Rich Cimini seemed to indicate it's not a foregone conclusion. I was texting Rich recently, so we'll have Rich on closer to training camp, but nice. I'm fascinated to hear more on that. Yeah.
I did want to ask, like, what are your guys' take on, I mean, the special teams? Like, dude, is he going to be gone? Like, you know what I mean? Like, is he done? I saw the presser with Boyer yesterday as well. Like, that dude does not give you, you guys thought that Salah gives you anything? That cat does not give out. That dude is Fort Knox, bro. Like, you cannot read between the lines with this man. So, but Boy Green, I appreciate you, man. Let the next cat go on there. Awesome insight this morning. Yeah, man. JETS, baby. Just. Let's go.
I love it. And yeah, let me make sure I do this for you. I'll play it. I'm trying to play more audio on the show. Here you go. Let's do some of this. This will be loud, but. All day, baby. All day. So I see someone has a question. We have more callers, but I just want to address this. Because I've been saying it a bunch. If you're new to the show, you're gonna have no idea what this is, and this may piss you off so much that you unsubscribe. If that's what happens, that's unfortunate because we're trying to grow the channel. But I am a New York Jets fan. Die hard. That's my number one thing. I consume the NFL. I consume the Jets. That's I do a daily show about the Jets. I mean, I don't know why I have to exactly sell myself on the fact that I'm this crazy Jets guy, but it's true. I'm a Jets guy through and through. My other sports, I'm a Boston guy, and I know that's very confusing. It's like you have to go to therapy for it, okay? I'm a Celtics guy and a Red Sox guy. But the order is Jets, pile, still Jets, and then, like, the Celtics are a team. I've been watching NBA basketball for a long time with my old man, my pop. That's how I became a Celtics fan. And I've been getting questions like this. Like people are like, congrats, Paul. Oh, man, one win away from a championship. The Celtics championship, which is coming, you Dallas Mavericks bastards. Suck it. Okay. I had to get that off my chest. But, like, it's coming, which is going to be phenomenal. And I remember when I moved here to New York, the first summer, as me and my dad are unpacking boxes, just me and him. We have a whole other family, but it was just me and him at this empty-ass house in New York. It's actually down the street from here. We watched the Celtics win the NBA championship way back in 2008, and we watch it. And that was like a cool father-son moment. Because, again, if he was a Jets fan, that'd be an even cooler moment that if we were both Jet fans and they won the Super Bowl. But so I did see that. And then watching them do it again at some point, sweep ski, perhaps, that's going to be awesome. But I got this question from Dakota, and I just want to address this. Paul, would you rather have the Jets three-peat or have the Celtics win the NBA championship for 10 straight years? I can't say this emphatically enough. If you even put this as a one-peat, would I rather have the Jets win one Super Bowl or anything else? It's one Super Bowl. I will cut body parts off. I will sacrifice small animals, goats, ferrets. I would do anything possible for the Jets to win the Super Bowl. Like, the Celtics winning a championship is going to be really cool, and you'll hear me talk about it on my radio show and stuff like, woo, this is amazing. But it won't be anything. It will pale in comparison to when, not if, when, because I know it's happening. When the Jets win the Super Bowl, I'm going to be I'm going to be crying. I'm going to be emotional. I'm going to be getting a tattoo. Like, you guys have no idea. Okay? So I just want to make that clear. That yes, I'm a Celtics guy. And it's a confusing feeling. We only have very few people in the chat that are Jets Celtics fans. It's a very elite group. Jackson Valente, I know, is one of them, and like a few other people. But it's like, wimpy, hefty, wimpy. That's where people are. So I get it. So I don't scream about it on Twitter to my 17,000 followers because they don't give a flying hoot about the Celtics. I get it. So I only talk about it a little bit here, but it's 1,000% Jets. Just want to make that clear. Just want to lay that on the line. Anywho, let's get right back to the phone lines. We got, speaking of New York, let's go to Ricky, New York, here on the program. What's up, Ricky?
Hey, what's happening, Paul? I woke up this morning to somebody attacking me on social media, and I would just like to would just like to thank you for helping me reset and refocus and get back to thinking about football.
Good work.
At any rate, I would like to say that you know what, I think there's some false narratives going around. Like the thing about Huff, and I'll apply it to Reddick too. Okay. Just because these guys want paid does not make them a bad guy. And Huff didn't shit on the Jets or whatever. If you take football aside and just say any one of us, anyone watching, anyone in the chat, if you did your job and you did exemplary, you outperformed every one of your coworkers and you got passed over time and time again and we're still making minimum wage, you would be saying, that's messed up. I had the production. I want paid. This is still a business. It's a sport, but it is a business. This is these guys' livelihood. And when you have the production, you should get paid.
Yeah, and just real quick on that, I just want to say, because like Johnny, right, is this guy just like, Bryce Huff, that bastard. He says it all the time. And I just want to say that's a point where I disagree with Johnny, but I don't tell him to his face all the time that I disagree. Like him being, Bryce Huff was blunt. What he is referencing, if you guys missed it, is after the regular season finale, Jets Patriots, Bryce Huff is in the locker room, reporters swarm him and ask him about hometown discounts and things of that nature. He's like pish posh. I'm not giving a hometown discount. Basically, I'm ready to get paid. And now I'm paraphrasing, like I've been paid relative peanuts and now I'm ready to get the bag. So no hometown discount. And who knows how many times you're going to get paid. I want to get money. And a lot of people like Johnny have interpreted that as a selfishness or whatever. And even if it is in a good way. He's earned his way to free agency, and the Jets coulda, woulda, shoulda signed him prior to that point, and I'm sure he would have taken it because players value security, and he hadn't had security for a long-ass time. So, yeah, I just wanted to echo those points. I know there's a lot of Johnnies out there of the world, and Bryce Huff deserves his bag.
Yeah, exactly. He was one of the best pass rushers in the league, and he wanted to be paid as so. Now, I'm curious. When it comes time for us to re-sign Sauce, and Sauce says, no, I want to be paid as the number one corner in the league, are we going to be calling him a bastard and everything else because he doesn't give us the hometown discount? No, I don't think so. You know, what's good for one is good for all. At any rate, moving on from that, now I have to disagree with Edward Ziff.
Oh boy,
saying that Sauce doesn't have good ball skills is, you know what? When you're that level of an elite corner, that's like saying that Revis didn't have good ball skills. When you're that good, people don't throw at you at all. When people don't throw at you, it's kind of hard to show off the ball skills when the ball isn't coming your way. And don't get me wrong, I like Stiggers. It's a great story. I'm glad to see the kind of production that he's putting up. But, you know, coming from like the system where he was, I'm excited to see what he can do, like particularly like when we get in the red zone. Because, dude, in the league where he was playing, he was covering a 20-yard long end zone.
Right.
That's a huge end zone. And so if he was able to do that at a good level in that league, that's very enticing for what he could do. And I wish him nothing but the best. But, you know, to steal a line from Nick Faria, pump the brakes, you know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves with this. Dude, I love an underdog story just like anybody, but we get a little bit carried away sometimes.
Yeah, that's guilty as charged. That's fair.
That being said, you know what? Everything is so in line for us. I mean, this roster is top to bottom the best I've ever seen. Everything is pointed in the right direction. I am so excited for this year, dude. Just, you know, like most of us, I mean, I watch every bit of Jets content I can get my hands on, all the clips from OTAs, minicamp. Dude, seeing Rodgers out there making those no-look passes, and I mean, dude, Rodgers looks back, like fully back, and I am stoked, dude. I cannot wait. And, you know, no slight to Kenny Yeboah, Ruckert, or anybody else, but, dude, do you see the one-handed catch that Conklin had the other day?
Super cool.
Oh, dude, Conklin is going to have a great year. And, you know, that's my guy. I love Conklin.
Yeah, that was awesome yesterday. If you guys missed it, the Jets tweeted it out, and he just went over the top of the one. Oh, it was spectacular. And again, I think a lot of people, and you could say this about a lot of players on the Jets roster, but people are sleeping on it because the poor quarterback play. So you don't remember how good or what these like ceilings are for some of these players. Like Conklin's just been. People say, man, he caught no touchdown passes last year. Like, again, how many touchdown passes were there? Like 8 last year? You know what I mean? So, like, you know, you didn't really have a lot of apps. So, again, I think there's going to be some harsh reminders this season of like, whoa, Conklin, that guy's pretty good. Or, whoa, this guy's pretty good. You're like, yeah, of course. Yeah. They were good before, but the quarterback play sucked.
Yeah, 2 guys that I think are going to have career years this year. Conklin is one, and number 2 is Breece Hall.
Oh, yeah,
dude, Breece Hall tweeting out yesterday, I feel like I'm back to my old self. Woo, boy, let me tell you what, NFL, that is bad news, because I remember pre-injury Breece Hall taking it to the house in Denver, taking it to the house in Green Bay, and we're going to see more long touchdown runs than we have ever seen. Breece Hall is hands down the best running back in the entire NFL, period. Now, some people say, oh, well, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is a great player, okay? He's as dynamic, especially now because of the way they use him in the pass catching game. But you know what? That's the whole Kyle Shanahan thing. You know, Deebo Samuel's a good wide receiver, but because of the way they use him in the run game, it's that Shanahan offense thing. If you're talking pure running back, can hammer it between the tackles, breakaway speed, just running the ball, Breece Hall is hands down the best running back in the NFL, period. And this year we are going to see it, and I can't friggin' wait.
Should be a lot of fun, Ricky.
Yep, that's all I got. Go Jets. Have a great day, Paul.
All right, I love it. Ricky joining us here on the program. Let's give him one. Let's friggin' go, baby. Quick thought on that before we get to our next call, and also YouTube Super Chats are welcome. I see we have one in. I'll get to that also in just a moment. I think the Sauce ball skill thing, and I know it's something I harp on because I was at that Jets-Cowboys game, and I tell you guys about the drop pick from Sauce. I would have flipped the game in the first half. Dak Prescott. Again, it was me It was Sauce. It was Dak. And I saw Dak pump fake, and I'm like, no freaking way he's about to throw that. Throws it, and Sauce should have had a pick six. It's because he doesn't get a lot of opportunities, targets, thrown his way. We really harp on the ones he does. And I'm sure Sauce does in his own head because he should be lulled to sleep. He's probably like, what? I'm getting targeted? What's happening here? So when he gets those opportunities, he probably overthinks it. He said, he's like, okay. I'm only getting like 3 throws this game. This is one. And, you kind of focus on it too much and you like try to catch it too hard and you drop it. So, I can't excuse it up for him. He's dropped a few and you're like, boy, man, it was right there. But I think that's a little bit that's going on too, to be honest with you, is he has so few ops. He's overthinking it. I think the traveling would certainly help because it's not like the Vikings, for instance. The Jets have Vikings week 5 or week 4. No, week 5. 1, 2, 3. I think it's 5. Anywho, the point is that when that one comes up, and if he shadows Justin Jefferson, it's not like the Vikings are going to be like, oh, well, I guess we're not throwing to Justin. Like, they're still going to throw to Justin despite that. So that's where Sauce's reps and opportunities should increase. Before we go back to the phone line, just saw we had a YouTube super chat in here from my boy EZ. Let's go to it. Cut Lazard, eat the $10 million, open up the roster spot. So my initial take on this Lazard cut thing, which again is still possible, according to Rich Cimini of ESPN, he has left the door open. Didn't say it's likely, but that it could happen. And my plan was, if we were going to cut Lazard, is because he's a cancer. If that was to be true, that would be the reason I cut him and eat the money, because you're like, hey man, the vibes are high. We're trying to win the Super Bowl. Let's be aggressive. Let's go chase this. But the other answer to the question, besides that's an obvious thing. If he's doing all that stuff, you want to get rid of him. But even if he looks like he bounced back, man, what's happening at the bottom end of the roster to me is the really intriguing stuff from that perspective, because then you can say oh wow, okay, not Xavier Gibson, that's probably not a good example, but the Xavier Gibson, Jason Brownlees, etc. of the world, if you go on that bottom end, back end, and they're looking really good, you could turn around and say, oh, wow, okay, we get rid of Lazard, we keep one of these youngsters. That could be possible. We'll see what happens. Again, that'll be something to pay attention to. But thank you, EZ, for the YouTube super chat there. All right, let's go next on the phone lines. This guy's been waiting. Let's go to Tio, Uncle VR here on the program. What's up, Tio?
Hey, what's up? Good morning, Paul.
Good morning.
I want to shout out to the Boy Green Coffee crew. What's up? Yes. Good morning to you guys as well.
Yep, let me give this shout out real quick. Jared B for the Coffee Club. The Paul Boy Green mug is awesome. He got his yesterday. He sent me a photo via email. It looks awesome. Mine should be coming at some point. I ordered a bunch of the stuff myself to try to get a firsthand view of the quality and whatnot. So again, that is in the YouTube description down below, baby. Yeah. So again, guys, feel free to hop on that action. As soon as I get it, you'll see me repping it here on the show. But feel free to check it out if you want to join. And again, you guys named it. I don't know who is the founder? Does anyone know who came up with the coffee club thing? But either way, that was you, Tio. That was you? Okay, I will have to send you your royalty check shortly. But Coffee Club, make sure you guys check it out in the YouTube description down below. But go ahead, buddy.
It was a big coffee conversation when I came in, and I was like, well, what's going on here? Is this the Coffee Club? And then I just started saying the Boy Green Coffee Club and saluting the Coffee Club. So everybody in the chat for the Coffee Club, it's awesome. We're all in here. You were sharing with us your story about your Boston Celtic fandom.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say boo to the Celtics. Number one, I'm a Knicks fan.
Yeah.
And number two, that isn't it so awesome, the stories that are attached to the fandom of the teams that we follow, for me, with the Jets, it was my father taking me to my first Jets game at Shea Stadium.
So cool.
And you just have those memories and the nostalgia that comes along with it. It really emotionally attaches you to whatever team that you follow. So, thank you for sharing that, first of all. Yeah. I wanted to start off with that. Second thing I wanted to say was, if you didn't know this already, because he said it probably about 20 times in the past couple of weeks, my nephew Johnny, it's his birthday tomorrow. So if he's still in the chat, let him know happy birthday, have a great day. We're going to be chopping it up later and stuff like that. But
Friday nights, right?
Yep. Friday night, 6:00. We're going to have a little session and, maybe a little surprise in terms of the birthday shout out. We'll see what's going on with that. I also wanted to shout out Nick Faria. Nick
Yeah.
Faria, I mean, like whatever outlet that he has been on or that I've watched, on this show, on Jake's show, in the Twitterverse, he is so knowledgeable. I mean, the guy is great. I mean, we don't agree on everything. We've had, back and forth conversations on Jake's show and some other shows where, we disagree on stuff, but the knowledge that he brings. So, I mean, like absolutely great guest. Love hearing his stuff. If he's still listening, shout out to you as well. The OC, Edward Ziff, he kind of stole my thunder a little bit about Stiggers. And okay. I've been pounding the table and, shouting out Stiggers for from OTAs when I saw him and, some of the film that they put out there in OTAs and the fluidness of his hips and stuff like that. I said to myself, like, it's such a great story, but I never really like looked into like the scouting on him. So I just wanted to, quickly do that.
Please, yeah.
And so his strengths are actually exactly what I've seen in tape. I mean, like transferable to what I've seen, on the field. Well built, proportional frame, loose hips with fluid movement in space. Playmaking instincts come naturally for him. Twitchy accelerator to close out targets, and ball skills that stand out on tape. And that is absolutely what I'm seeing on film on him. Anytime I see him doing any plays, he has good size. I just wanted to shout him out. I think he's going to make the team. I think he, when you look at the rest of the comparisons and you look at the rest of the overview, it basically puts him, I want to say he was in the top 25 with a 6.0 grade, which could be a dependable backup with the opportunity of being a good starter. Wow. So if the floor is that and the ceiling is that, then we got a great 5th round pick, with Stiggers. So, I just wanted to shout that out and continue to look at, and highlight and look at his ascension in the defensive backfield.
Yeah, I love it.
One last thing.
Sure.
I just wanted to get your take on this.
Yeah.
I saw this exercise, this post on Twitter about the new kickoff rules.
Okay.
It says it's rife with great play opportunities. Who would you want taking the ball out for the kickups? And they had Malachi Corley, Izzy, and Gibson.
As a returner, you're talking about, right?
As the returner, taking out the ball.
Yeah, because the other question is, and we've seen this a little bit, I heard Thomas Morstead, again, shout out to Connor Long, who had Thomas Morstead on his show. The other piece of the puzzle is the opposite side of that, is your kicker, because kicker all of a sudden is going to be a lot more involved in tackling. It happened rarely in the old model because every once in a while, if a returner broke a million tackles and got to the last line of defense, maybe it's kicker, and then you have that one last chance. But that chance would be a lot more increased in the current model, the new model they've set up, because if there is a break the wave, it is kicker versus him, and most kickers are not athletic enough to be able to keep up with the skills player, which has resulted in some people flirting with, oh man, I'm going to put a safety who could just kick far, and then he could be a better last line of defense. So we've seen some flirtation with that, and maybe Thomas Morstead's out there. Maybe there's another player on the Jets roster that can do that. That part's interesting. But in terms of returner, you can have a maximum of 2 returners back in the quote-unquote landing zone. You can't have less than that, but you could have 2 as a maximum, as I was kind of combing through the rules yesterday before we actually see it in action later in the preseason and things of that nature. And I go back and forth, but I'm kind of leaning towards Corley, to be honest, because when you see all, like, again, Xavier Gibson could be another one, but if I have one choice, Izzy has a lot of speed, but I'm just not sure on the full juice, because when he had his ops, and again, I don't want to overreact to the limited sample size last year, there was just, it looked like some deer in headlights, and maybe that's just a rookie thing. But I saw a lot of that from Izzy. There was burst immediately. Like when you saw him touch the ball in the first half second, you're like, wow, he's moving at a different speed than some of these other players like Dalvin Cook and others that were kind of moving in the same sphere. So maybe he deserves more benefit of the doubt. But I just feel like a guy he's not like an elite track athlete that's Chris Johnson or anything, but I think his ability to break tackles will be important. Again, the initial wave. I'm just seeing it as a Game of Thrones line, right there where you're just having two groups of individuals on opposing sides, red team, blue team, just crashing into each other, and Corey just waiting for the right one to break some initial hand action and things of that nature that around him, and then break through. And then if it's him one-on-one with someone else and he can truck somebody, I'm just leaning kind of towards Corley. But I don't think there's a wrong answer, because I think there are a lot of ways you could go. Like Salah said, has first dibs based on his opportunities last year.
I didn't think you were going to say Malachi Corley, but here's a follow-up question.
Okay.
Now, if Malachi Corley does great in camp, and they, put him in as the wide receiver 3, they put him in the slot, something like that, does your answer change?
It does, 100%. And that's kind of like we talk about, although it changes because, again, in theory, you wouldn't want one of your main contributors being there and then immediately coming on offense. But with how important this kickoff thing could be, maybe you would still dedicate it, considering, the impact it could have on the game. And that maybe, okay, if Corley still is the guy and he's normally your starting slot receiver, again, in this scenario, that you're like, all right, well, Gibson could get the first couple of reps initially on the front end of that. And then when Corley, sucks some wind to get some oxygen on the sideline, he could come back in. So it initially changes, but I would say a lot of people are expecting this kickoff rule to change the game. And if it does to that dramatic level, you still might be willing to invest a player that normally is in that realm. That's why we've heard some flirtations with Breece Hall and other players like that with how important it could be.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember, a few prime players in the past that would still do kickoffs, like Ocho Cinco. I think Chris Johnson would do kickoffs, and still, and some other wide receivers that were, they were just game breakers that would do it. I mean, Deion Sanders, as the cornerback, he's probably on the defensive side was one of the the best and pivotal pieces on the field, chess pieces on the defense. And he was still doing kickoffs, for a long period of time. But that has changed over a period of time in terms of the importance of players and separating specialists and stuff like that. So Tariq Cohen is another one that's
100%
in that list.
Jakeem Grant could be, if he ends up making the team. He tried out this week. We'll get news on that if they make a signing. So he'll have to reshuffle some roster, actually, with that 90-man roster spots. Before you hop off, Johnny Boy has a quick comment, then we'll get to the rest of the callers here. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah.
Boy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, now we can. Go ahead.
Okay, you can. Yeah, we can hear you.
The driving. Yo.
I'm sorry. Johnny Boy is in too rough of a spot. We can't hear you, Johnny. I'm sorry about that. But Tio, thanks for the call, brother.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right. Well, actually, let me throw EZ. I think EZ would like to speak with you. Go ahead, EZ. Go ahead.
I just have a very short rebuttal.
Oh, okay. Please do.
Okay. I was never saying that Yeboah was a number 1 tight end. I was just saying he's too valuable to cut, and I think that he should get a few more opportunities on offensive plays because he is very good in the clutch. That's my first point. Second point is I was never, ever bashing Sauce Gardner. Never, ever. I was just saying he's not as much as a ball hawk. We forget, and this is very important, Stiggers played in the CFL. That field is 150 yards long, and it's also wider.
Correct.
Yep. Okay.
People forget about that part too. Yes, that's right.
It's a much. How much? I know it's 20. It's 50. It has a 55-yard center line, right? A 55-yard line. So that means it's 10 yards longer in playing field, and 40 yards longer in end zone on both sides.
Okay, so the Canadian field is 110 by 65. So there you go. It's that much larger, which
That's
again,
a good point.
we have 53.5 for NFL. So it's 12 yards more on that end and then 10 yards longer. So yeah, wow. Yeah.
Well, it's actually 20 yards longer because CFL has a 55-yard line.
Oh, right. Well, that part I did not know. So, but the Canadian ends
so
at 20 yards. So, yeah, right. That's true. That math.
So it's a 30-yard longer field. Okay, and would you say 15 yards wider?
Yeah, it's like a 12-ish yards longer because a little bit. You kind of round it out because it's 53 and a third, I believe, wide. It's 65 yards wide in the CFL.
So you're getting the CFL's number one rookie playing on a smaller field now.
Yeah.
So, and all I was saying is like what your last guy was saying, he has all these natural ball skills.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. I'm not saying Sauce is bad. Sauce is great. He's the number one guy. I'm just saying as far as some of these instinctive ball skills and ball hawking ability, Stiggers has, I think, that little edge. He still has to develop into a much better all-around player. But I think if he does, he could be a number one guy in the NFL.
All right.
And if you look at Stiggers and you look at his frame and everything, I mean, like when you think about a cornerback, that's like the perfect frame, like 5'11", 6 foot, you know, that 190-pound frame, you know, with a little bit of muscle to it. I mean, you can't teach that. He's low and center to the ground. You know, I played safety. I played cornerback in high school and semi-pro. So I know, like, the instincts, you can tell, like recognized game. You can tell, like, when somebody is good, and you see that guy on tape.
That. You can't teach that.
Has it. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah,
that's called the it factor.
Yeah,
he has that it factor. Sauce is just great because of his physical attributes. He's 6 foot, almost 6'3", but he's got the wingspan of a guy who's 6'8". So I mean, he could like really cover, and like that's why I was saying he could swat the ball and everything. But I don't think he's got the ball hawk skills like Stiggers. But that by no means diminishes him. He's amazing. He's just amazing.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you, Easy, for a few of the rebuttals. I appreciate you calling back in for that. Yeah, go ahead, Tio, real quick, and then real
quick. I was just gonna say, Sauce is a unicorn. You know, he's 6'3". He, you know, like he said, he has the arm length, but he has the speed, and he utilizes all of them in tandem to create this player that is a cornerback instead of being a wide receiver. So I mean, like. That's what Sauce has going for him. And it just so happens that on the cornerback side, on the defensive back side, it makes him the best in the league. So that's all I have to say.
No, Tio, I appreciate it. Thanks, buddy. And we just got to keep moving on because we have a lot of callers here, and then I'm running late here before I have to head back to the radio show. Let's go to B-Mac here on the program. Sorry for the wait, B-Mac.
That's all right. Tio, 16 minutes. It's supposed to be 16 minutes.
16 minutes. Over under. Give it back to him, B-Mac.
Time is money, right?
Time is money. I love that.
Paul got to get to his podcast thing. Yeah. So now, yesterday practice So yesterday was the last day of practice, right?
Yes, until training camp. That's correct.
So today they are not practicing.
They're not. No. Now they break for training camp, so that's going to be 40 to 41 days, depending on your math, until they're back again together. So people could be in the building and stuff, working out, eating, those kind of things. So they can't be coached is the only rule that exists right now. So there are some players that are going to stay through this gap and just keep working out, keep eating, and maybe you'll see some media stuff, pictures, interviews, and little things like that. But they can no longer be coached now.
All right, so can we put to this? Rodgers hasn't gone to minicamp to rest now. You know what I mean? Because minicamp's not over, so we can all move on here.
Eventually, we will. There's a lot of people still, talking crap about it. I saw it over there that Rodgers is this horrible teammate and all that stuff. So that may persist for a couple more days. I don't believe in it, obviously, but I'm just saying that's what the narrative is out there. So it'll be a chatter for a few more days. And then when training camp gets around, it might come back up again because until we find out what the Aaron Rodgers event was that he skipped, so maybe it'll leak out, number one. And if it doesn't leak out, then that'll be the first question Aaron Rodgers asked at training camp. So it will come back a little bit then too, I imagine.
Yeah, but does it really matter where he went though?
No, it obviously is not one of the main things you think of, which is family, football, or medical. If it was any of those, it would have been an excused absence. So it's not one of those. So whatever it is, again, I have no idea. Colin Cowherd revealed that it was a European vacation. Like it was some vacation he went on outside of the country. I don't know. I have not been able to confirm any of that.
Do you believe Cowherd?
No, that it could be vacation. I have no idea what it is. So I don't want to wildly speculate, but it's sort of like, again, I'm fine that he was here for all voluntary and he's not here for the minicamp. That's fine. Whatever. Good. Okay. Enjoy your time away. But it will, because he was the only starting quarterback, apparently, that missed minicamp, that's according to some of the NFL reporters on ESPN, there will be a greater sense of focus. What did he miss it for? And again, hopefully it's something has been shared by Salah, super important to him. I hope it is. If it is a thing that could have been done at any time, I can't remember the show I said this on yesterday, but like if he went to the movies, he obviously didn't. I'm making this up. But if you went to the movies, you could go to the movies any day. So if you went to something that could have been done on any day that you just purposely put on minicamp, that looks really bad. But if it was like, I don't know, his political thing, some people said it could be an RFK thing, I heard.
A retreat,
some people said,
something like that.
Say that one time? Oh, yes, the ayahuasca thing. Someone said it could be that. So again, I don't know what it is yet. Hopefully we'll find that answer out and then it'll be put to bed. So you said, does it even matter? It matters a little bit because as long as it kind of confirms that it was like an important event and it wasn't some BS. Like, I had to go to Cabo early. Like, dude, you would have had 40 days to go to Cabo from now to training camp. So hopefully it's not that. That's the long story short, because I really want this story put to bed, but I know it won't be for all those reasons I said. It'll be a few more days. And if we find out in this gap and or training camp when Rodgers reports, if we don't know by then, he will be asked. And even if we do know, he'll be asked because they'll be like, why the hell did you go to Guatemala when you should have been with your teammates? So either way, it's going to come back up here shortly.
Do you think this makes them look bad?
It does. Well, it does nationally because people are making fun of him and saying, oh, what a horrible teammate. So I guess that's hurting publicity from that standpoint. But knowing the event will push it one way or the other. Again, if it's this nonsensical event that he could have went to any time, he's going to catch a lot of shit for it. If it was something serious, again, this whatever other thing he did, and we see like he went to a funeral. I don't know. You're like, oh, Jesus. Okay, clearly he went to something that, but he knew about it months in advance. So whatever that means, I don't know what could be known months in advance. That has to be like either a political thing or like an ayahuasca thing. Because like a death wouldn't be months in advance. So I have no idea what it is. So like I said, we're just speculating, but I'll be curious to hear what it is.
Does his teammates got a problem with it?
That's the number one thing, B-Mac, because if any of his teammates or coaches don't have a problem with it, which it doesn't seem like they do publicly, then we're great. That's the only thing that Rodgers should care about, what we should care about.
So his teammates don't have an issue with it, right? Like CJ Mosley.
Not every player has media availability, so, not everyone can be interviewed, so we don't know. But the ones that have been spoken with the media, because there's a few players that speak every day. You guys can see all those interviews on the Jets app. I think Breece Hall, I have to re-listen to a few of them. I think Breece Hall was the only one who was asked about it, and he didn't seem to care. No.
Oh, so as long as he was still for the voluntary, offer the voluntary, a few days of 2 days of mandatory.
Yeah, what are we talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, but I do know. But the reason one came on is that did Tom Brady miss like 11 days? Because I keep hearing, oh, this is why Tom Brady is such a great leader, and
yes.
Rodgers not. Did Tom Brady miss like 11 days of training camp?
Yes, and that one should be the one that rings the bell a little bit more. And so what happened is he did miss 11 days of training camp for some preordained event. I don't remember what the event was. But Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio, who has that Twitter account, he's been railing Rodgers on social media like, what an asshole. And like goofing around like, oh, what event did he? Is it an ayahuasca retreat? Like he's goofing around on social media and giving him shit for not being at this mini camp. But there's a old tweet of his, hey, Herm Edwards, don't tweet, it'll last forever, whatever he said. I got to get that liner on the show too, but whatever you tweet is out there in the universe. But Mike Florio had an old tweet that said, Brady's missing 11 days training camp, whatever, who cares? But you can't be who cares and then also giving a lot of shit now. And plus, training camp matters a hell of a lot more than 2 random days of mandatory minicamp because there's this big ass gap. Like, I'm not saying it's not important at all. Like, it would have been great for him to be there, but him not being there now in June, I would prefer over him not being there in training camp in July when we're getting ready for the season. So if he was to miss one or the other, I think what he missed is cool with me. But yes, apparently Tom Brady did miss like 11 days of training camp.
Yeah, because I think Tom Brady went to like a wedding, right? I think I heard like he went to like some wedding.
Oh yes, now I'm remembering it a little bit more now. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, and nobody and we heard crickets.
Yep,
so
that's true.
So people are saying all the time Brady wouldn't do this. He's a great leader. Shut up, all right? Because he did do it, right? So
yeah,
you know what I mean. And then Lamar Jackson missed a few voluntary OTAs.
Yeah, he's missed a lot of stuff historically speaking. He just skips out. He doesn't care. And he gets some shit, but nowhere near as much as Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, Joe Barrow missed a couple of OTA practices too. So
yeah.
And we hear crickets. But again, it's Rodgers. He's polarizing. Yeah. He's the villain. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's the kryptonite, you know what I mean? So he's going to get stones thrown at him.
Of course.
You know,
naturally.
That's what happens when you are when you go against the grain and go against the agenda.
Right.
That's all I want to talk about.
Okay.
I let you get going. Love you. Keep doing your thing.
Thanks, BMAC. Appreciate it. And I appreciate the aggressiveness on that call. Well done. All right, let me just see that Tio just purchased, appreciate his Boy Green Daily Coffee Club mug. We'll also have to get a Boy Green Coffee Club shirt. I'll be working on that behind the scenes. We appreciate it. And guys, keep it rolling. Thank you so much for the support. It means a lot. The free way everyone can contribute is by liking the video, hitting subscribe down below here on youtube.com/BoyGreen25. We're live every day, minimum once at 7:30 every morning. Plus, Tuesdays, Thursdays, today's a Thursday, we'll have Brandon Pockris with me and Woody coming up live at 3 o'clock for even more Jets content. So guys, feel free to show your support. And if you want to go the extra mile, there's 2 ways to do so. Well, actually 3 ways to do so, but 2 specifically we will highlight, which is, of course, the Boy Green Superfan Club. I might have to change it into Boy Green Coffee Club. I'll do that on the side, but money sign on the left side of your screen. Make sure you guys click that and join for a small fee every month. And then, of course, number 2 in the group is, making sure that you dive into that Boy Green shop and get some of that merch. Appreciate you, everybody, and we will see you next time. I literally got to run. I got to get to that radio station because I got a radio show starting in almost an hour. So I got to go. Got some travel and commuting. But God bless everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back at 3 o'clock. God bless. And we'll see you. Take care.